Record. Welcome to Career Confidence. I'm just so excited to be with you guys today. I've got pages and pages of notes that I want to cover, and I have prepared this both for people who want more confidence in their job search, as well as those who want more confidence in their current role in leadership, etc. So I do want to hear, some of you did answer when I asked you in the email, but for those of you who might not have told me, tell me in the comments, are you here for confidence in your job search or in your current role? So type job search or role in the comments so that I can even tailor this more. I'm guessing we have a pretty good mix here based on what I know so far. We've got two roles, job search, both. Oh, I love that little double dipping here. Job search, current role, job search, job. Yes, Dan says yes. So I'm going to assume that means both. You're here for confidence in all parts of life, which, by the way, what we talk about when it comes to job search or career, this, of course, bleeds into every other part of your life, right? And so, for those of you who might be new to me, welcome. I'm Kristen Zavo. I'm an executive coach and a job search coach. I've been doing this work for over 10 years now. I started part-time after I changed careers in 2014, and then I went full-time in my coaching practice in 2018, 2017. It's been a while, but I've been doing this work for a while. Before I went full-time in my coaching practice, I spent over 15 years in traditional corporate roles. I started in investment banking. I spent 9 years in financial consulting in the restructuring space. So I was supporting companies who were going through bankruptcy. A big one that some of you might have heard of, Lehman Brothers. Yeah, that's one that normally people know of. And then after, over a decade in finance, I decided I wanted to do something different. I decided I wanted to change careers, do a complete 180, work with healthy companies. And instead of having my nose in Excel all day, I wanted to do what I perceived as the more fun work of strategy and marketing and customer experience. People thought I was crazy. They thought I would have to start at the bottom. But life is too short and work is too long to not love what you do. So I made the career change. That took a lot of confidence, a lot of chutzpah to do. And even though it was a change in my corporate career, that's actually how I got started in coaching, because people ask me, how did you do this? How were you able to get a promotion while you were at it? How did you even find someone who would give you a chance, etc.? And so that's how I got into coaching. I'm so passionate about this work because I believe that if you can build a career that lights you up, that feels fulfilling, where you feel impactful and valued and seen, that it affects every other part of your life. And so when I talk about job joy, it's not just about being happier at work. Yes, I want that for you, but it's also about having a career and a role that supports the rest of your life. So I am very holistic in that sense. And I think that having the perfect job doesn't matter, right? If you don't have fulfillment in other parts of your life, right? And so, what else do you need to know? I'm the best-selling author of Job Joy, Your Guide to Success, Meaning, and Happiness in Your Career. And I'm really honored to be featured in a lot of media like the Wall Street Journal, the Huffington Post, Fortune, Forbes, Business Insider, Real Simple, Yahoo News, Newsweek, and more. And I've helped people at this point, probably close to 1,000 people, but certainly in the hundreds, to step into their dream roles, to many times even double their income and feel seen and respected at the highest level in their career. And so that's what this is all about. The people that I work with, they care about how they show up at work. They care about the impact they make. We're good people. We want to do good in the world, and we want to have some energy left over for ourselves and our lives and the people we love. Does this make sense? Are you guys in the right room? Is this aligning? Give me a yes in the comments. And if not, that's okay. We can say goodbye. If you're just here for a job, this is probably not the space. Okay. Oh, Carrie, hello. I love when I see returning folks as well. Diane says yes. MD is like 1,000,000%. Those are a lot of zeros there. I love it. Okay. So, what this class is not, this is not going to be a surface level, feel good, slap on an affirmation. Kristen tells you you're great and that's going to solve all your problems type class. Okay. Because those aren't helpful. Spoiler alert, right? No matter how many of those affirmations you've screenshotted and that are in your phone right now, if they don't feel true, they can actually do more harm than good. right? And there are studies that show that if you care to do the research. But this class is going to be about deep mindset. We're going to talk about self-concept and strategic shifts that really change how you show up, right? So it starts from within, how you show up, and when you change how you show up, it changes how people respond to you. Right? It allows you to have more influence and to reach your goals without the pushing and feeling like you're pretending to be someone you're not, but it happens a lot more effortlessly because it's coming from within, right? It's authentic. You can feel that. And so I really want to encourage you to minimize your distractions. I know we are in a world where we all love to multitask. Some of you might be doing that even now. Kristen's in her intro. This doesn't matter. But you've already here, you're dedicating this hour. I really want to encourage you to be present. You never know what one tip, what one question, right, is going to make all the difference for you. And really see this as a gift to yourself, right? You're taking this time for yourself, for your confidence, and just for your overall betterment. And so I would love for you to be present as much as you can. Participate, ask me questions. We're going to have time for questions at the end. We're going to talk about why does confidence matter? We're going to talk about what really is confidence, right? The dictionary definition versus how at JobJoy we define confidence. Then I'm going to share with you the career confidence trifecta. Doesn't that sound fun? I'm so excited to talk about that, which will give you a framework. Then for those of you who want more personalized support, want to go deeper beyond what we start in this class, I'll share a couple options to work together, and then we'll have time for Q&A. I can never predict exactly how long we're going to take, but my goal is that we will have about 60 minutes of class and then about 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you have to leave early, it's not a big deal. There will be a replay, but I do encourage you to stay till the end so that you can ask questions. And many times, somebody else's question is a question you didn't even really realize that you had to, or that would be helpful to you. So let me pause here. Are we ready to go? Any thoughts, any questions about what we're doing here today? Are we good? Give me a little love in the comments. I feed off your energy, just so you know. So the more you give me, the more you're going to get. I am energetic, but you know. Carrie says, can't wait. I love it. Perfect way to end the week. Yes, I love Friday lunch and learns. I've done them all different times of the week, but I feel like summer Fridays, like hopefully some of you can be done with work after this and you can go enjoy. This is just a good way to end. Let's see. Trish is good to go. Lene has the star eye emoji. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about why does confidence matter? And actually, tell me in the comments, why does confidence matter to you? I'm going to tell you what I see, both with myself and with my clients, but why is confidence so important? Like, why would you spend, right, your Friday lunchtime with me? What is so important about confidence? Right? If you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else? Yeah, Trish, I did a post on LinkedIn. You might have seen it. I think you did see it about if you're not bought in on yourself and your gifts, right? How can we expect anyone else to? So true. Diane says it's her day off, so she's excited to spend time. I love it. It reflects to others what you want them to see. Yeah, right. We get to be really intentional about that. Show up speaking more intelligently. Yes, credibility, buy-in. You're more likely to take the chance and ask for what you deserve. Yes, so good. If you don't expect results, you won't do it. Yeah, it's so true, right? Sometimes we sabotage ourselves. And so when we don't have that confidence, that is many times the hidden block behind a lack of traction in all areas. So certainly our job search, certainly our current roles, ascending in our careers, getting the promotion. And also when we don't have confidence, we're more likely to experience burnout, right? Like, who said that? Like Dan said, if you don't expect results, you won't see it. So we have this like feeling of a lack of efficacy. And when we're working hard or we're exhausted and we don't see results, right? What happens? We get burnt out. And then it's like, what's the point, right? Which is another terrible place to be. It also forces us to play small, which doesn't feel good in a lot of ways, right? It's like we're not having our own back. We know we're not playing full out. And I know sometimes that can feel good. You really stick it to the man. They're not getting all of you. But the problem is that over the long run, that actually erodes at your confidence. It erodes at your feeling of impact and purpose and all the things that make us feel good about our work and, in the rest of our lives. Diane says confidence takes courage. courage, and courage takes confidence. Yes, absolutely. You can pull yourself up when life hits you down. Trish, you're going to love my definition of confidence and authenticity, setting the goals, following through with them. This is so true, so good. And they're connected, right? Because what you said, Tommy, about setting the goals and following through, that is building self-trust, right? And that is building an identity of a person who they do what they say they're going to do, right? And that builds confidence. So it all feeds into each other. And so confidence is not about being louder. It's definitely not about being perfect. It's about being in alignment with who you are. It's about being grounded, right? You guys know what I mean when I say grounded, right? Some people, they're like, they're off in their own world, but when you feel like someone is really grounded, they're present, right? They're embodied. Right? Embodied is another word that can, we don't always use it in the corporate space, but embodied is the difference between somebody reading off a script that a coach gave them and where they're speaking and you can feel it, right? We feel the difference when someone is authentic and they're truly confident versus when they're just saying something that they read in a book. You guys know what I mean? You can feel it, right? It's a sense. We feel the energy. And so, what lack of confidence is costing you? It's costing you opportunities, right? Whether you're job searching or in your current role, it's costing you money. Like, let's just be real here. It's costing you money. It's costing you promotions. It's costing you bonuses. It's costing you fulfillment, satisfaction. It's costing you leadership opportunities, right? It's also costing you balance and well-being. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with it? When we're not confident, we overcompensate. We overwork, we overplan, we overprove. It's never good enough, right? We're never satisfied. And so we're putting more into work, feeling like we're not getting anything out. And then we're exhausted and we have nothing left when we get home. Have you guys felt that way? Right? And so when we don't show up and we don't own our value and own what we're bringing to a role or an organization, own our strengths, it has an effect on every other part of life. There's nothing left, right? And I know all of us here, it's yes, we want a great job, but it's not just about job. We want a great life. Right? No one, when you're on your deathbed, no one's going to say, well, she was perfect in meetings and she made it to CEO. No one cares, right? What you're going to remember, the memories that are flashing through are going to be all the things probably outside of work, right? And so if you can show up confidently in your role and do your best and then leave it and trust that what you did was enough, that you are enough, right? That allows you to be more free and present in the rest of your life. Do you guys see how that makes sense? Okay. So I'm going to share the trifecta, but after we talked about this, I want to know because this is important. If you're going to do the work, if you're going to follow what I talk about in this class, we need to know what's at stake for you. So the question I want to ask you and that I would love for you to share is what would more confidence mean for you now? If you could connect with the strongest, most empowered, most confident version of you, how would that benefit your career or your life right now? Because what's the point of this? If there's not something big at stake, why are we going through the hassle, right? If it gave you some ideas, you get the better job, you negotiate higher pay, you get the promotion, you have more influence at work. But what does this mean for you personally? Because I want to take this from kind of theory in general to you personally, because otherwise, it's not, if you don't have something at stake that you care about enough, it's not going to be worth the effort to expand your comfort zone, right? So the MD says peace and energy. I love that. And I love that combo, right? Carrie, getting out of a toxic work environment to one where I can fully use my skills. Higher level, higher appropriate level, more money. Julie, more clients, more money, financial freedom. Yes. Lene, better prioritization, productivity. Yes. Allison, ask for the role I really want at work that is needed but non-existent. Yes, I love that. Trish, build my credibility at work and in my social media presence so that opportunities open up. Yes, Trish, one of the things I talk about with my clients is that we don't just want to have an online presence when we're looking for a job. You guys are in charge of your personal brand. And if you can do that in a really intentional way, opportunities come to you, right? So you're doing things with your personal brand that are showing and building credibility, building you as an authority in your space, even when you're not looking for a job, right? That's kind of what I call career maintenance. So I love that. And that's how you become a magnet for opportunities that are for you, right? When we really put some intention into that. And it doesn't have to take a long time. Okay, Stephanie, what am I capable of? And how is that seen by others? Sharon, I'd really get cracking. Yes, I have a client example about how she was thinking that just motivation was holding her back. And when we really got to it, it was something deeper, a form of confidence. So it's so true, right? When we believe in ourselves, we'll actually do the things that we know we should do, right? How many times do we know what we should be doing, but for some reason we're still not doing it? Right? And a lot of times this is because there's something underneath, because somehow, right, our lack of confidence, the part that is protecting us, right, thinks it's saving us from something. So of course it's not going to let us take action in the way we know we should. Tommy, improved relationships with clients, family, leading to more financial freedom. Yes, financial freedom is huge. Diane, asking for what I need and be able to stay firm. Yes, boundaries are a big part of confidence, right? Would be more visible and seen, says Jason. Lene, 100%. Okay, beautiful. I hope that all these examples also give you more ideas, right? And so let's talk about what confidence is. So if you just look up the definition, the confidence, according to the dictionary or one of the dictionaries that I looked up, is the feeling of self-assurance from one's own qualities or abilities. That's a little watered down, in my opinion. I think we can do better. So, we're going to define confidence in job joy terms, okay? Because I want you to know what you're anchoring into. I would add to that that true confidence is knowing you can handle whatever comes your way, that you are the kind of person that figures it out, that you are the kind of person when you get knocked down, because we all get knocked down, you are the kind of person who rises from the ashes 10 times better. That's true confidence, right? True confidence comes from within, not from external validation, not from the titles, not from the pat on the back, not from the gold star. The irony is that when the confidence is coming from within, it's actually easier to get all that external validation, right? But when we're looking outside of ourselves for someone to tell us we're good enough, we will never be fully satisfied because everybody else's opinions and expectations of us, it's always changing and everyone's is different, right? Which is why confidence has to come from within. And this is one of the, if you can do this work that we're talking about today, this is one of the biggest acts of self-care and building self-trust and building safety from within in a world that can feel so chaotic and unsafe, right? And so, a couple rules, a couple tenets I think of when I think of confidence is number one, confidence does not mean the absence of fear, of doubt, or of failure. The most confident people, right, they failed a lot and they realize they step back up and they're fine, and that failure was a step to winning. Okay. Number two, confidence can be learned and cultivated. Okay, so it's not just some people are confident and some people aren't. Some people who seem to naturally be confident, right? Either they're working on this or it's a ruse and they've got some major issues underneath. That's a class for another day. Number three, confidence is built, and this is an important one, is built on the foundation of self-trust and worthiness. Are you guys hearing me on that? Because this is where people resist. Right? We're really committed to thinking we're not good enough and we're not worthy of everything we want. Right? And I think many times we're conditioned to think this way, right? We're conditioned to look to something outside of us to show us that we're okay and that we're enough. And again, so taking back your power, really liberating yourself and building freedom from within is when you know you are worthy and you trust yourself to have your own back. You're never going to abandon yourself. And we might say, well, what's abandoning myself? When something goes wrong and you make it mean that there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Oh, I did it again. I messed up again. I never get anything right. Anyone have a strong inner critic? Yeah. I've had a strong inner critic too. I've been working on it for the past, 10 years. And I'm so much better, but sometimes she still comes up, right? And that inner critic was a voice that, at one point when we were younger, it kept us safe, right? It might really be the voice of, of a parent or a teacher or something, and we were kind of wanting to make sure that we hit certain marks. But when we get older, right, it doesn't serve us anymore, right? And it's trying to protect us, but it's actually doing the opposite. So we get to befriend that inner critic, but they don't get to be in the driver's seat. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Um, Tenet number four of confidence is that action breeds confidence. Again, this is one of those things that's really hard. We say I'll only feel confident when I have the results. Yeah? You can't have the results by design until you take action, right? And so you have to do the scary thing and take action before you're confident in order to build confidence, right? It's kind of like messes with your mind in that way. Um, Number five, confidence is a choice. It's a choice, a decision, a way of being that you make again and again. Right? Just like any motivation, right? It's not like kind of like, where you take a shower. You don't take a shower one day and say, okay, I'm good forever, right? You got to do it again and again. And it's the same way with confidence. This is a conscious choice, right? It's something that, you decide this is who I am and I'm going to act in this way. And then it does become more of a habit. It isn't as difficult, but it's still a conscious choice, I find. And if you've experienced, any confidence issues, I want you to know you're not alone. Studies actually show that the smarter you are, the more accomplished you are, the more likely it is that you will have confidence issues. And it's because we know more. We know what we don't know, right? So isn't that like a horrible bit of irony that the people who probably haven't earned the thing to be confident, they are the most confident, right? And no one talks about it, right? Because you're not at work talking about that you're not confident. We hide it, right? And then we're ashamed of it and we hope nobody notices, but it affects how we show up. It affects what we do, what we don't do, the chances we take, right? But I just want you to know you are not alone. I work with people at all different levels, from manager up to CEO. My executive clients are VPs, CEOs, and every level, I promise you, every level has confidence issues. We all do. Okay. It's part of being human, but it's something that you get to work on and that you get to foster. Okay. Are you guys ready for the career confidence trifecta? Yeah. I'm very excited about this. This is the first time I'm talking about the trifecta in this way. And this is more than affirmations and mantras, like we said at the beginning, that really falls flat if it doesn't feel true. And so it can actually cause more harm than good. And so the three pieces, I'm going to give you an overview and then we're going to go into the specifics and what they actually mean. So the three pieces of the career confidence trifecta, they're all S's. We like alliteration here. Self-trust, self-concept, strategic action. So when I say self-trust, this is building the foundation of a winning, confident, empowered, unapologetically authentic self. Self-trust is the foundation. Do I keep promises to myself, right? Do I say what I'm going to do? Do I have my own back? Do I say yes when I mean yes and no when I mean no? Do I talk myself out of things that are good for me? Do I talk myself into things that aren't good for me, right? This is about knowing who you are. This is about owning it. And also, this is a big one for so many of us. True self-trust is also about stopping the habit of outsourcing our power and our knowing. How many of you are following some rando on TikTok about their advice on something? You don't even know them. They don't even know you, right? And we see all these things that people are asking, right? Asking them, well, what do I do with this? And I want to lose weight. How many calories do I do for this? And what about this, right? Stop doing, notice when you do it, and then realize, right? All of us here, we don't have anyone who's like 20 years old right out of college. All of us have experience, life experience, career experience, right? I want you to start fostering that trust from within. Okay. And it doesn't mean you don't get support. Support is so important. But again, it always goes through your own filter. Number two is self-concept. So your self-concept is your identity, and it's how you shift from identity of who I am into embodiment. So it's not just up in the brain, but it's how I act, right? It's the difference between, if we use the health example, oh, I have to go to the gym today versus I am the type of person who goes to the gym every day, right? It's just who I am. It's just what I do. It's who you believe you are, right? And what you express, how you express it, and how others respond. This is so much more than your resume. And I have lots of examples to give you for all of these because I really want to bring it home. But right now, we're just doing a quick overview. Number three is strategic action. This is when your identity and your embodiment align, and then you're taking aligned strategic action, and it can feel effortless because you don't have to work so hard. You don't have to be fake about it. You don't have to just follow a script because it's actually coming from within. It affects how you speak, what you apply to, how you present, how you advocate for yourself. Okay. The mistake that I see most people making, a lot of coaches, are part of the problem here, is that most people jump to number three. They jump into strategic action before they are ready from an energetic, before they trust themselves, before they know who they are, before they believe in themselves, right? Before they are the type of person who. And when we just jump right into action and the 5 steps to do whatever, it falls flat or we have trouble actually doing it. If you're in an interview situation and if you have two people who have prepped exactly the same, right? And they both use ChatGPT and they both have the exact same answers. The person who is able to say it confidently and embodied and they believe in their value, even if they're saying the exact same words, it's going to land differently than the person who's just checking the box and saying what they need to say. Okay. And so we're going to talk more about this. And like I said, I've got lots of examples. Let's see. Um, MD, what if there's a person in a virtual room that you don't trust, makes you feel less confident on a call with them? What would you recommend? Otherwise, you feel confident. I would, oh, this is a good one. I would think about, right? What is this person triggering in you? What insecurity do they bring out in you? And maybe even what does this remind you of? This is a lot of the one-on-one work I do, either in my group program or in my executive coaching, because this is the personalized where when we feel we're good in all parts of life except one person, right? That is usually an invitation for healing and growth. Many times it's the way what our unconscious does. You guys, if you know me for any amount of time, you know I love psychology. I have degrees, certifications in psychology. I'm obsessed. But what happens, what our ego and our unconscious tries to do is it will recreate things in our adult life in order to come to like a resolution. And so many times the way that, I don't know, we'll just make up an example. The way that your female boss treats you at work and makes you feel small and meaningless and worthless, it's like, oh, that reminds me of that teacher wherever, right? And it's like your unconscious is trying to resolve it. So it keeps bringing up these similar things. So that would be a little bit of what I would say. Oh, and it does remind you of a person I did not trust. Yeah, same personality. So I think that's worth, it's a little beyond the depth of like more of a general class, but I think that's worth looking into. How do they make you feel? Who does it remind you of? And keep going back, like even before that. And what is really being asked of you right here to look at or to heal within yourself? Because someone can't trigger you, right? If it's not a tender spot. Right. If someone were to say, "Oh my God, Kristen, you have the ugliest blue hair." I mean, it would be weird, right? But it wouldn't trigger me because there's no truth to it, right? But if someone were to say something that hit on an insecurity, right? It might be like, how could they do that? And they're terrible, right? But it's a mirror of something, right? And this is why confidence from within is so much more important than slapping on an affirmation and calling it a day and trying to psych yourself out and convince yourself of something because the truth will come out, right? Okay. Let's continue on. So, we're going to go into more of what I mean by self trust and identity. So, when I say self trust, which can sound a little woo woo, I'm talking about do you keep commitments to yourself? This is like very basic, right? So many of us, when life gets busy, all our promises to everyone else come first and we come last, right? When life gets busy, we stop eating healthy, we stop moving our bodies. Yeah? No, right? I want you to know. And again, I want you to know that when you promise yourself something, you keep to it. Because what happens is over time, we erode that self-trust. And if your unconscious gets the idea that, well, yeah, she said she was going to drink water every day, right? And she's not, she never follows through, right? Then it goes into a worthiness thing. We're not worth it, right? And so again, it affects your confidence in that way. Also, self-trust is about basic self-care. And I'm not talking about bubble baths and mani-pedis and massages. All of that is great. But self-care is how you care for yourself physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, right? I remember years ago when I was in consulting and I was talking to my coach, and she mentioned something like, well, do you take care of yourself at least as good as you would take care of your dog? And
Mhm.
I cried. I cried because what? A dog gets a walk every day, they get water, they get good food. When they make a mistake, they're forgiven. And I wasn't even doing that for myself, right? Are we taking care of ourselves physically, emotionally, right? Are we leaving space for that? Or are we resisting that mentally? Do we give ourselves a space? Do we have compassion for ourselves? We're all humans doing the best we can, right? And can you have compassion for yourself rather than turn on yourself, right? That's that inner critic, right? Can we, when we notice beating ourselves up, can we be a loving advocate? A question that many times I'll ask my clients when they're telling me, yeah, what I'm noticing here is why am I so stupid that you have to tell me this again? Or why didn't I get this by now? The question I ask them is, what would the loving voice say here? The loving voice would say, this is what you're learning. The loving voice would say, you've gotten so much clarity here. The loving voice would say, this is not your area of expertise. Kristen does this all the time. Of course, she knows it off the top of her head, right? Right? The loving voice would be honoring the path and the journey that got you here, right? Can you be that loving advocate for yourself? When you can do that, no one can pull your strings because you're not looking for that outside of yourself, right? Can you bet on
Mm.
yourself, right? Do you believe in your capabilities, right? Reminding yourself confidence is a choice, right? Can you set yourself up for success? It's not just like, oh, I feel good, I'm a good person, but are you actually making it easy for yourself to be successful with the goals you set for yourself? Are you preparing? Are you learning? Are you getting support? Right? It's something that I heard, which is so true, right? Is you can tell what somebody's priorities are by looking at their bank account and their calendar. How are they spending their time and their money? Right? And if we were to look at that for you, would that be a true reflection of what your priorities are? That's a really good question to ask yourself, right? And letting go, and this is one of the hardest ones, letting go of external validation as a metric of your worth. If you can do that, that will lead to so much freedom. And no one is perfect at this. Again, we're humans, we're in communities. I always give the example. I have a friend who her mother's mother, so her grandmother was still around past 100. Even on her deathbed, my friend's mother was like close to 80. Her mother was over 100. And even on her deathbed, she was looking for approval from her mom. And this is like an 80-year-old woman, right? So the inclination as humans, right? It never goes away. But if you can start to detach from that and know that you are okay and you are worthy regardless of somebody else's opinion, if you can even do that 5%, 10% more, that is going to lead to so much freedom. So much freedom. And so you're going to take back so much energy from that. And so an example I just heard from, I was messaging with someone that I had worked with before, and she just landed her job, and she was telling me how she had gotten rejected from a couple jobs, and it really got her down. And she remembered what we had talked about, right? A lot of times I talk about job search rejection and how you have to, even again, right, when someone tells you no, you don't make that mean something about your value, your worth, your abilities, right? And she kept moving forward rather than saying, I'm giving up, right? I'm not going to do this anymore. She kept moving forward. She kept believing in herself. And after these two big rejections, which at the time felt terrible, she ended up landing a job that was well into the six figures. These other jobs were like 80,000, was well into the six figures, much more a match for her worth, a much better culture. And she said to me, I'm so glad I trusted the process. I'm so glad I trusted myself. I'm so glad that I kept going, right? Versus spiraling or letting the no's become a story about my worth or my value. So many times when we don't get the result we want, we're very mean to ourselves and we tell ourselves a story. It's because I wasn't good enough and it's never going to happen. And here we go again, right? And that's where I want you to stop that and be the loving advocate. Have that confidence so that you do keep going. Another example, I just had a catch-up call with an executive coaching client today. And I mean, so many examples for him. But the one we were talking about today was in his last role, right? A lot of what we worked on was he was so afraid of making a mistake. He worked at a big consulting firm. They put you on the spot. We did a lot of the inner work around that. And now in his new role, super high up, he reports to a C-suite. He is so confident and so owning his strengths, guys, that he will show up to a call, he was telling me, and he will say, I'm going to make some hard decisions. You guys aren't going to agree with them. My door is open. I'm happy to explain. I'll probably make some mistakes too, but I'm doing my best. Like, I was like, this is a new man here. Can you imagine being able to be that real and honest in leadership? And when you can be that authentic, right, in the right environment, he's in a good culture, right? When he can do that, he's immediately building trust. And he's only 5 months into this new role. He's building trust. Now people can come to him, and it's already making such a difference, not only in how he is perceived, but how he feels and how he's experiencing this new job. He feels so much more empowered. And I asked him, I said, do you like this more? He's like, oh my God, I like this a million times more versus being in the weeds and being afraid of being called out or found out for some mistake. Right? That's what imposter syndrome is. Someone's going to find out we're not that good, right? That all the successes, all the experience somehow was all a fluke. You guys ever feel that way? It's very common, by the way. So, question I want to leave you with, and you can certainly share in the comments, or this might be something, a reflection question as it relates to self-trust and identity, is what is one area where I could trust myself and my decisions more? And if something does pop to your mind, I would love to hear it in the comments. What is one area of life? And maybe it's career, something specific, maybe it's personal. One area where I could stand to trust myself and my decisions more. Another way this shows up, right? When we don't trust ourselves, we want to make a decision, right? Whether it's joining a gym, working with a coach, choosing a job, changing careers. And we have to ask everybody around us for their opinion, right? Because we don't trust ourselves, right? So let me know in the comments one area where you could trust yourself or your decisions more. What I find, especially with executive level clients, the most successful ones, they're able to make a decision, right, based on logic, but also their gut and their intuition. They trust themselves and they move on, right? Rather than spending all that time second guessing, over researching, over preparing, all the things. And if this is more of a reflection, that's okay. Let's see. Diane, why is it I can talk to clients on the phone or in person, get them to take action until the boss is in the room? That's a good question for you to reflect on, Diane. That's a very good question. What is different, right? What part of you is showing up or coming online when your boss is in the room? Okay, let's talk about number two. So first was self-trust and identity. Second is self-concept and embodiment. And I want you to listen. I'm about to say something really important. Your career will never outgrow the story you tell yourself. You're never going to accomplish more than you think you're worthy of or you're capable of. Do you guys get that? And so I want you to change from you know, the I need to do this, I should do this, why aren't I more confident? I should speak up more, I should go for the job, blah, 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 to I am. I am the type of person that takes impeccable care of herself. I am the type of person that puts herself out there. I am the type of person who takes imperfect action. Right. And some questions that you can ask yourself when you're in a situation and you know you're not playing full out. What would my most confident self do? Or here's another. This is a really good one. What would I do if I weren't afraid? What would I do if I knew success was inevitable? So this is one I want to hear in the comments, right? Whether you're going for a new job or I'm thinking of you, Allison, right? Creating the new job at work or going for a promotion or speaking up more. What would you do if success was guaranteed? Tell me in the comments. What would I do if success was guaranteed? If I knew that I would be successful, what would I do? I want some good ideas here. And guess what? I'm not going to make you do it. I want you to do it. But I want you to at least play with the idea and the version of you. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Let's see. Tommy says, I have so much confidence as a game changer within leadership, educational, Toastmasters, etc. But when in the job world and office, I was less likely to speak up. I go back to that leader in the back of the room. Yeah. So, Tommy, what would you do if you knew success was inevitable? Would you speak up at a meeting? Would you sit in the front of the room? Would you volunteer to lead a part of the presentation at work? Right? Julie says she would stop overthinking, stop delaying. Julie, I want you to get more specific. What are you going to stop overthinking and what are you going to stop delaying? Allison, I would just go for it. Prepare a presentation, list of reasons, go into the people who needed to hear it and ask for it. Yeah. And you've been at this role long enough, Allison. So I know you can do it. See, that's the thing when I know you guys. Once you're in the job joy world, I know you and I know what you're capable of, right? So you would just go for it. And so what you can do, an exercise could be like prepare. Okay, if I knew success was inevitable, here are all the things I would do. And just like plan it all out. And then when it's in front of you, right, what do you have to lose? Worst case, right? In your case, Allison, worst case is that you don't get what you want and you're in the same situation, but at least you know you tried, and then you could decide from there if this is still a place that you want to be. Right. But you know, you're not waiting for someone to come to you, read your mind, and give you the gold star. Right. Trish said, I would approach senior level people to sell our services. Yeah. I would love to challenge you, Trish, to approach one person next week, one senior level person. Maybe you do one a week for, I don't know, 60 days for the summer. Maybe this is Trish's summer challenge. And what you're going to realize, Trish, is no babies are dead, no puppies are dead by you trying, whether you fail or whether you win, right? See, Stephanie, I would tell people exactly what I want to do when I'm networking instead of trying to be all the things for all roles. Oh, and this is going to make such a big difference, Stephanie. Such a big difference. If we're not clear on what we want, people can't help us. And if we're not clear on what we want, when we're not clear in articulating that, then the productivity of these networking calls is limited. And then you're doing it, you're putting yourself out there, which is good. You're doing the networking, but then you're not actually getting right the benefit of it. So yes, and Stephanie, what might be helpful is coming up with a couple sentences. I am looking for a role in XYZ, right? These are my strengths. This is what I want to do. This is also what I don't want to do. Let's see, Tommy, I would jump in on my strength of learning the tech, the software, and how to do it within the team. Let's do it. Guys, if you could leave this call with like your one action item, that would be massive. Dan, I wouldn't get deflated. I go in with confidence, but get deflated. Yeah. So think about what makes you deflated and how can we prepare for that moving forward? Okay. And I'm thinking of, I've got certainly lots of job search examples, but I'm also thinking of an executive coaching client I have. Her name's Wendy. She has her own business. She has a retail store, also a personal brand, and like super successful, guys, like super successful. She is such a badass woman. If you saw her, you would say, oh my God, she must be so confident. And we were talking about she was going to this networking event with all these high-powered women and CEOs. And she's a CEO, she's a founder, she has a physical store, right? She's so accomplished. She's worked for, some of the biggest brands. And we had this conversation of she was nervous and she was feeling lucky to be there. And how was she going to have anything to add compared to everyone else? Okay. And when we flip this to show, first of all, she was invited for a reason. She belongs in the room because she is in the room and she decides she belongs in the room. We did some of this prep work, some of this confidence work beforehand. She goes into this big, networking. It was like an all-day workshop thing. People were coming to her and saying how much they learned from her and how inspired they were from her, simply because she chose to believe she belonged in the room. She did the inner work, right? We had to overcome some things. She was open. She was learning from others, like a humble leadership, right? But that shift in it's like this cycle of you believe it, you show up in a certain way, right? You're getting that feedback, so you're showing up more, right? And so it's building confidence again, right, as you take action. I also want to talk about, because this is not just about the inner work. The inner work is crucial. We talked about self-trust, we talked about self-concept, right? Self-concept is the identity and the embodiment, right, of your most confident, most empowered version of you. But none of that matters if we're not taking strategic action, right? So strategic action and expression. And this is when your action, if you're tuning out, I want you to come back to me. This is when your action is aligned with the identity that is your most confident self. When your action is aligned with that highest level identity, it builds confidence really fast. When the action is aligned with your lower self who doesn't believe in themselves, right? Or when you're at a place and you haven't done the identity work and you're trying to take action, but it doesn't really land, right? That's when there's that mismatch. So we're working on the identity, we're building the self-trust, right? And then you're taking action that is aligned with that version of you. That's why I asked you, if you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do, right? That is the action aligned with the version of you that you are stepping into, right? The version of you before you were afraid of failing, before someone told you you weren't good at whatever, right? Before you started questioning yourself, right? This requires imperfect action. Another way that things are really sneaky when we have a confidence issue, right? We're over preparing, we're overlearned. I got to get another degree, I got to get another certification. I'm not ready yet. Maybe I'll try in a year. Maybe I need to be here more time, right? And that's just a sneaky way to put off the harder work, the gutsier, courageous work of taking imperfect action. It's never going to be perfect, right? So, overthinking, over planning, learning, all of that is a sneaky trick of the ego to put off doing the confident action. And so, when you take imperfect action, that allows you to improve and then you get to repeat. Right? Your goal or your desire, which is why I asked you earlier in this call, what would more confidence mean to you? Right? Asked you, like, what's at stake here? That goal has to be more important than the fear of messing it up or not getting it 100% perfect. You have to care more about getting the promotion, making double the money, being able to provide for your family, feeling respected at work. That has to be more important to you than not doing it perfect. That's why we have to have a fire in our belly. There has to be something that we're doing this for. Otherwise, you're never going to do it and you're going to stay small, right? Action breeds confidence. I'm going to say that over and over, right? It helps you get better. It helps you get uncomfortable with or comfortable with the unknown. One reason that we lack confidence is it's scary, it's unknown. It's like we're going into the void. I haven't done this before. Well, how do you make the unknown known? You do the thing, right? And so it makes the unknown less scary, right? More shots, more wins, right? More failures, right? That is a path, that is a step to success. You're learning, and then you have a higher chance of getting it next time, right? You need to know, and this comes back to the self-trust, right? That no matter what, you're okay, right? But I want you to feel really proud that you went for what was true for you and you didn't give up because you heard no once, twice, or three times, right? And we could go do research on, you could just simply Google, famous people rejected a million times, right? And I could give you a lot of examples. I'm thinking of the Sylvester Stallone, what's his boxing movie, right? He brought that to a bunch of different people. Then he said, I want to star in it. Rocky. I was waiting for you, Allison, to tell me that for some reason. But we could look. There's lots of authors who pitch things. The Harry Potter, right? There's so many people who they kept going because they believed in themselves, and I want that to be the same for you. Okay, Diane says play big, not small. Absolutely. And so here's the thing, guys. Confidence doesn't come before you take the big leap. It comes from taking the big leap, no matter what the result is. Are you guys hearing me? Yes, I think Dan hears me. We got at least one of you. Do you have a question, Dan? Or you just agreed with me?
Um, well, I mentioned about getting deflated
Mm-hmm.
and going in with confidence. I think that caveat to what you said is if you don't get a response, you don't get the response you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
the action, then the action may not. If you're deflated by the not getting the response you wanted, then that's can be a problem. you can, and then that can associate, action with failure, or action with, yeah, failure,
Well,
basically.
that's why we don't just jump into action, but you're doing the self-trust and the self-concept work. Because if you get deflated because one time or two times you don't get the result you want, what that tells me is that you are basing your worth
Right.
on something outside of you. Guys, we can't control things outside of us. And so if you're basing your worth and your confidence on the whims of some person at work, right? Or some hiring manager you just met, right? You're gonna be like a ping pong. You're never going. That's why you have to have that center from within. And then from that place, when you don't get the response you want, you can come from a grounded place and say, okay, is there anything I can shift? What can I learn from this about how I went into it, about how I presented it? Is this even the right place for, right, this action? Maybe it's the culture that's not right. But if we are allowing our strings to be pulled at the whims of, one person's decision or opinion or whatever, then we don't even have the calmness and the clarity to be able to look at it and say, what can I do different next time? Right. And that's what I mean, that you never turn on yourself. You never make a no mean, oh, well, then, right. That's the story. I take action. It's not worth it. Guess I shouldn't do it. Do you guys see like how mean that is? Can you imagine if you had a kid and they went and they tried out for something imagine what you say to yourself. Would you say to a kid, well, tried out for baseball, you didn't make the team. I wouldn't do it again. Clearly you have no no talent. Can you imagine? What would you say? What would the loving voice be? Hey, buddy, let's practice more. Let's go to a baseball camp if this is something that's really important to you. And if it's not, let's do something else. Let's find out what you are great at, right? That's a great example and I think really relatable. Thank you, Dan. So some things to think about when it comes to confidence. I would love to give you guys the homework of making a list. And it's not just for career, but all the badass things you've done in your life that you're really proud of yourself. Okay. So it could be the time when you spoke at a big conference and you weren't ready. It could be the time that they put you on the spot for a presentation and you did it. It could be the time you flew internationally for work or not and you were by yourself. But it could also be personal things when you move to a new city not knowing anyone, like just things that you've done that you look back and you're like, wow, right? Like I'm thinking career. I remember in my investment banking job, they made a big deal about saying how everybody started at the same salary. And I was 21 years old, guys. So I was pretty naive and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then I found out the guy behind me, same level, after they made this big deal, everyone starts at the same. He was making $10,000 more than me. For a 21-year-old, for all of us, that's massive. But for a 21-year-old, absolutely huge percentage of my salary. And I am so proud that I went to my boss's boss and I spoke up about it. And you know what she said? Because I knew she was going to say, you shouldn't be talking salary. I said, oh, believe me, I wouldn't talk my salary. I was embarrassed. And guess what? I got my salary was corrected. And then, like a few months later, I left. But I had a higher salary, so I could negotiate more. Now, I'm giving you this example because this is, if I were making a list of all the things I were proud of, that would be something, right, where I could look back and I could say, look at that. And that would build my confidence even now, right? If 21-year-old me could do that, right, I think I can do a class to a bunch of strangers, for example. I think I could put myself out there in some way. But then even thinking personal, right? I moved to New York City. I didn't know anybody. I had a new job. I was had my boxes as a coffee stand. I had a lamp on it, right? They put me right on a new job, right? That was scary. And for a young person in their 20s to do that, like that's something I'm really proud of, right? And so does anyone have any that they want to share, things that they're really proud of, some badass things, either career or personal? Let's see. I could do things when I was younger that I don't know I could do now. It's in you. If you could do it when you were younger, you could certainly do it now. Let's see. Allison says it's redirection, not rejection. Yes, so true. So true. I say that all the time. When we don't get what we want, many times it's because there's something way better around the corner. And the preparation we did for this opportunity was actually preparing us for something way better than we could have imagined. Um, let's see. Carrie says you can't control getting the offer, but you can control what you're doing to get an offer. Absolutely. Focus on your actions. That's within your control. Yes. Um, let's see, MD National Conference speaking with 300 attendees. Yeah, that's something to be proud of. I want to hear more, guys. I want to hear. These are all brags. What are you proud of? Tommy moved to a city hated in Dallas and learned that I can be happy there or anywhere. Podcasting, traveling across the country, summits. So good. So good. I love it. I love it. I'm really proud of my last, I think some of you might know this, my last big breakup. This was with someone I thought I was going to be with the rest of my life. I'm so proud that even in the middle of being so upset, I put my stuff in storage. I drove cross country. Like, and I look back and I'm like, wow, that was pretty courageous, right? But at the time, it was just like what it was who I was. It was what I was going to do, right? And so I want you to think back. It's not just work stuff, but personal stuff, because I want you to like tune in to that fierce version of you because you can call that forward. That is in you. It's just life has like beat it down, right? And you think you have to survive and you have to make yourself small, but I want you to connect with all that is already in you, all that you have already done. Let's see, Carrie, I reached out to meet the big wig in town to network. A mentor couldn't believe I did that in a good way. He never responded, but I did it. I love this example, Carrie. Nothing bad happened. You were no worse off after reaching out, right? That's what you have to like literally nothing to lose. Tommy had a TV star as a guest on my podcast. So cool. So cool. Jason can be afraid to initiate a conversation, but in the past I've interacted with high level people. An hour chat with a princess at a big social function, and we picked up where we left off at another event. I want you to write this big list, guys, and remind yourself of what a badass you are. Okay? No one has to see this, but I would love to see it if anyone wants to send me their badass list. Okay. It's important to remind ourselves we're not like starting from scratch. You guys have all done such big things. And so, a question you might want to ask yourself is, where am I not advocating for myself? Right. Or, another, I want to give you actually some more examples with strategic action. I told you about a client of mine. She's a job search client. And we had about a month ago, she had told me that she had a conversation, and I forget who it was it Dan or Tom? It was somebody who said, or maybe it was you, Diane, who didn't ask for the job. No, Stephanie, I think it was. They weren't in a networking conversation. She wasn't clear. She was doing some volunteer stuff. She saw there was an opportunity for a job. She had this networking call, and she could never like get herself to just say, I am interested in working here full time as an employee. That was number one. Number two, she has a contact very high up that she knows from 10 years ago, and she's been meaning to reach out, but she hasn't. So these are two tactical things in her job search that she's been thinking about for a month. And I said, okay, let's get honest. Why haven't you done it? Well, ADHD and, I'm overwhelmed. I got all this. And I'm like, okay. And why haven't you done it? Let's go a level deeper. Well, I think it's a confidence thing. Okay. Confidence is very general, right? Specifically, why haven't you reached out to this woman that is at a big name company, exactly where you'd love to work? And she's like, well, my last company went bankrupt. They no longer exist. And I'm really embarrassed. Ding, 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 ding. Bingo. Do you guys see? She was telling herself the story that she wasn't good enough because of something outside of her control. A past employer went under. And so it was something she became ashamed of. And this is what I mean when I say if you jump straight to the tactic or the strategy without addressing the inner work here, right? The inner work is okay, is that really true? No, I can tell you because she worked for a smaller company. She had so much more experience than someone who had only worked at bigger companies. She got to see what not to do. She was part of so much more of the process than she would be otherwise. There's so many ways for her to see this story in an empowering way. But as long as she's telling herself she's not good enough and she should be ashamed of her experience, she's never going to put herself out there, right? Or if she does, she's not going to go for the ask. So, do you guys see what I mean when I say the strategic action? It's not just taking action, but it has to be aligned with the empowered, self-accepting, self-loving, the version of you that actually advocates for yourself. And that's why, even if you were like, oh, no worries, Allison, I will talk to, give me a little update, send me a message. But as always, right, if on the inside we don't feel good enough, then even knowing what to do, right? That's why we don't do it, or we do it half-ass, or we don't actually go in for the ask. Right. And that's why it's not just as simple as an affirmation or a five-step process, right? Confidence comes from within. Now, do you have to wait till you're perfectly confident to do anything? No. Remember, action is part of the process. So in the work I do with clients, we work together. Number one, we are taking action that's helping with the confidence, but number two, we're doing the inner work as well. Okay. So the question I want you to ask yourself, where am I not advocating for myself? Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of a recap. I'll share different ways for us to work together, and then I want to go into open Q&A, anything that's on your mind. But as a recap, we talked about defining confidence. This is not just feeling good about your qualities and your skills, but defining confidence is knowing and building the self-trust and the safety to know that no matter what comes your way, you can handle it. You are the type of person who figures it out. When you are kicked down, you rise from the ashes 10 times better. Are you guys hearing me on this? I want you to repeat this to yourself and look for evidence. This is not just a fancy mantra. Look for evidence of all the ways when you thought the world was ending and you figured it out, because that's who you are, right? We talked about the career confidence trifecta: self-trust, self-concept, strategic action. They all build and feed into each other. And so I'm curious, of those three, self-trust, self-concept, and strategic action, tell me in the comments, which are you strongest in, which needs attention? Which are you strongest in, which needs attention? Most of us are okay in the action, and it's more the self-trust and the self-concept. But I'm curious what you guys think you're strongest in and you need to work in. Maybe it's all three, and that's okay too. Um, but while you think about that, let's see. Okay, they're coming in. Trish, strongest in self-trust and strategic action. Self-concept could use some work. That's going to be so huge, Trish. The identity, right? When you can be in the identity of the person who just does something and just is something, it makes the action easier. I'm going to give you a really simple example. I used to always think that in order to be fit and healthy, it was hard work and sacrifice. When I was younger, I would work out like crazy. I really watched my calories. Like, I was really hard on myself. And I had this belief that that was what was necessary. If you wanted to look really good, it was a sacrifice. You couldn't eat out, blah, blah, blah. In this older phase of life, somehow I've like locked into this idea that I am just the type of person. This is the identity work, Trish. I am the type of person, I move my body, I eat well, my body responds. All of a sudden, right? I'm walking 10,000 steps a day. I watch my protein. I take certain supplements. If someone were to look at my life, they might say, "Oh, this is so hard. How does she do this?" Because it's part of my identity now, it is not hard. Somehow I walk 10,000 steps a day. Somehow I don't do any exercise I don't like. I don't eat anything I don't like. I eat really well. And I am probably the fittest and the most energetic I've been in well over a decade. But it's not hard. I'm not pushing. I'm not sacrificing. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. The shift is from I have to do it, I should do it, I need to control myself versus this is just who I am. That's the identity piece. It makes everything easier and it makes everything more natural. I hope that non-work related example was helpful. Stephanie and Steve, ditto to what you said, Kristen. Okay, cool. Self-trust, says MD. Stephanie, I need to work on self-trust and self-concept. Beautiful. Carrie, I'm taking action, but I got tired and complacent, so not as strategic as I needed. Okay, I love the self-awareness here. And I think leaving this class with that is going to be so helpful. So I'm going to share a couple ways to work together, and then let's go into some Q&A. Anything on your mind, no worries. See you later, Carrie. If today's class sparks something, today can be just the beginning. So if you feel complete, this can be your lunch and learn. You can feel good. We can ask some questions and you can feel good. But if this is just the beginning, if you want to stop the trial and error, if you want the full roadmap and you want the personalized support so we could go into the details of what's going on for you, right? Not just general, and not just tactics. If you want to reach your goals in a sustainable way, not pushing, not hustle, right? So that you can have that lasting success because it's coming from within, not coming from a tactic that a coach told you, it's actually coming from within, then there are a couple options to work together. Number one, if you are job searching, your next step is Find Your Job Joy. This is my signature job search program. This is for six-figure professionals. It's 6 months. I have inside, there's a membership where you have a full job search course on every single part of the job search process, laser focused trainings, worksheets, audios, videos. There's an app, all the things. So it's really easy. So you have this course. We have 3 group calls a month. Those are on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. So same time as today. I do it on your lunch hour for most of us. You have one one-on-one call every month. So in this way, you don't just have the course, but you have weekly support, and then you have a one-on-one where we can go deeper. And this is where we do a lot of the inner work. And then you have unlimited questions 24/7. We have a private Facebook group. So in between calls, you can ask questions, you can get reviews on things. Of course, all the typical job search things, resumes and interviewing and LinkedIn profiles and negotiating, all those things. And so you've got multiple touch points and you never have to wait for a call to move forward in your job search process. So that is Find Your Job Joy. I've been running this for several years now. Over hundreds of people have been through it. It gets a 90% of people rated a 9 or a 10 out of 10. You will make your money back, especially if you're at the six-figure level. Some bonuses for you guys, 500 off any payment plan. I'm also gifting you the LinkedIn challenge for those of you who want to really show up more confidently online. Super important. I have a networking challenge that I'm also gifting you. Both of these normally sell for $250. I also have, which I thought would be really helpful, a recession proof your career interview series, but I brought in a lot of different experts from finance and health and somatic work, so that you can really, especially with the economy in such an uncertain place, you can be prepared. And I'm also gifting you 3 extra months of course and group coaching access. So if the job search does take a little bit longer, this is a difficult market, that you have that space. Um, so those are the bonuses. Those will be good for 2 weeks, so through July 11th. But if you've been following me for a while, you know that this is for you. I do have a really special fast action bonus. If you sign up by the end of the weekend, by Sunday, you will get 1 month of executive coaching. This is valued at $1,500. And this you can use when you land your new job so you get off on the right foot. So it's totally one-on-one. And like I said, most of my clients make their money multiple times over, and you can get started for as low as 465. So that's number one, if you're job searching. If you are a leader, if you want to thrive in your current role, one-on-one coaching would be the space for you. I do have a few private coaching spaces available. This is more application only, right? Because it's higher touch. This is just me and you for 6 or 12 months. So all this to say, I will put links. I'll send you an email on this, of course, but I will put links in the chat. Just make sure if you do, when you do sign up for Find Your Job Joy, use the code confidence to get your 500 off. And then if you're not sure, you want to discuss what's for you, or you have questions, you want more details, we can always hop on the phone. So I'm also put a link to my calendar there. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Okay, you have the links. I do, because there is the fast action bonus through the weekend. If you want to talk like today or tomorrow, just send me a message. My calendar isn't. Can you guys not see the links? Let me know if you can click on the links. If not, I can repaste them. Um, but if you want to talk this weekend, let me know. Just email me. I don't have it open on my calendar, but for those of you who want to talk before, so that you can take advantage of the bonus, I want to make sure you have that. So here is to book a call, and here is to sign up. Um, for if you want to get into a lot more details of the program. I shared it at a high level, but I have that here as well. The special for the extended payment plan for 465, I don't have that on the main website. That's something just for people that I'm, working with and that come to these classes. So that's a special bonus. Okay. Questions on anything? Questions on the course? Questions on anything we talked about with confidence? Anything you want to share specific to your situation? I have about 10 minutes, so this is your time to get some complimentary coaching. Thank you so much, guys, for your participation and your energy today. Makes a big difference. This is an example of showing up for yourself. And if you don't have questions, okay? If you don't have questions, I want you to type in the comments your number one takeaway because this is going to help you remember. You're welcome, Stephanie. If you put your number one takeaway, this is going to help you remember. You might spark something for someone else, right? There's no point in coming to these classes if you're not going to really learn something and implement it, right? So, what are you taking away from this class? Top takeaway. You don't need to remember it all, right? Julie, action breeds confidence. Yes. MD, action brings confidence no matter what the result. Yes. Because you realize the world doesn't end just because you don't get the result you want, right? And then it's going to be more likely that you will get the result you want the more you're trying. Because if you don't try, you can't get better, right? And if you don't have that confidence from within, you're not going to be able to reflect to see what you should change, right? Okay, what else? Takeaways. Anyone remember anything from the trifecta? Stephanie, definitely going to do the badass list. Yes. If you guys do the badass list and you want to send it to me, I would love to see. I know you guys are badasses. Okay. And work on stating exactly what I want for my next networking meeting. Absolutely. Right. We need to clearly go in for the ask, right? And you guys see, I just did it, right? Not even on purpose, but super meta, right? We have this class, you've gotten to know me. And what did I say? If you're in a place where you want to work together, right, beyond this class, if you want more personalized support, here are two ways we can work together. It's an invitation. And that is no different than when you are at work or you in a job search, sharing, right, what it is you're looking for. It's very similar, right? You cannot be apologetic about it. You have to own the value, but you can't own the value if you don't believe it in yourself, right? I've got probably hundreds of testimonials, right? But none of that matters if I didn't believe in the value myself. Okay, let's see. Confidence from within, it's not from external sources. Yes, and it's easier to get it from external sources when it comes from within. The irony, right? Oh, Allison is back. It's redirection, or no, this is responding to her. Redirection, not rejection. Okay, let's see. Tommy, email a summit, contact podcast. Yes, to explore opportunities. Use the identity statement. Yes, 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 yes. Do it, Tommy. Shar says, thank you so much. You're welcome. Okay, no questions? We're all good? No one wants some coaching? Okay, are you guys ready to just like start your weekend? Is that what's going on? Dan, I generally have a self-concept of self-efficacy, excellence, giftedness, beautiful, but also rejection or non-reaction sensitivity. This is a problem. Explains uneven success. Right. So for you, Dan, it might be that you, and this is part of self-care, quite frankly. Can you sit with the discomfort when you do feel rejected and also realize you're still okay and still worthy? Right? This is some of the work, right? We hear all this like self-love, woo-woo stuff, but the real self-love is holding yourself in the discomfort. Hey, right? And separating yourself from the feeling. I'm feeling rejected. I'm noticing I want to make a story about why this means I'm not good enough, right? And then having your own back, right? To be like, actually, that's not the case. This is one person, right? And is there anything I can learn from this? And what do I want to do next?
And in reality, it's not even rejection. It's just not like, oh,
Mhm.
not a positive gushing response.
Yeah, but can you learn
So I was
to,
like, huh,
yeah,
oh, if I'm not getting that, then I must have, I must be
yeah.
failing.
I want you to give that to yourself. That's what I mean when I say having your own back. When you can give that to yourself, and you don't need it from someone or something outside of you, you're unstoppable. You're uneffable with. As long as you're looking for something you need, a validation outside of you, anyone can pull your strings. You guys see that? Is it nice? Yes, absolutely. It's the best feeling in the world when I get an unexpected client testimonial and I read it and I'm like, oh, who's that about? Oh, thank you. That feels so good. And I have to be okay and know I'm worthy whether or not that comes in. That's the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
This is such important work, and I know it's weird to go this deep right on a free class, but I really hope it served you, and I really hope that some of these seeds that we've planted, right, even if you don't fully like, or you're not fully in it now, right, that it comes to fruition, right, as you see things. But I promise you, like, I've been doing this work for so long, and I'm talking about the personal development work. Um, this is the key to freedom. It is in all the ways. Diane, some deep diving into things when I'm on my own and talking to clients, having conversation, right? When the boss is in the room trying to follow the script. Yeah, what would it be, right? If you knew success was inevitable, what if you experimented with Diane being yourself, even in front of your boss, right? Tommy, how can I transfer the confidence I feel as a leader in
Because I feel
Toastmasters to podcasting to workplace settings where I hesitate to speak up? I want you to think about, Tommy, what is the difference in those two settings? What are you making that mean? Why is it easier for you in Toastmasters than it is in a workplace setting, right? It probably feels like it's bigger stakes, or maybe, right? Like, I don't know what it is without having a conversation with you, but there's a story you're telling yourself or something more that you think is at risk. And maybe it's not fully being your full confident self that you are in Toastmasters, but maybe it's what's one small thing I can do that's more aligned with how I show up in Toastmasters, right? It's not about like jumping into the deep end of the pool, but our nervous system really responds to little baby steps. Right. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then you're building your confidence in that way. But you have proof that you can do it, Tommy.
Well, Toastmasters was the thing. I jump in there. I always say Toastmasters is my playground to mess up and fail without the like you can't get fired in
Consequences. Yeah.
Toastmasters.
Yeah. Well, I want you to sit with like, would you actually get fired if you made a little mistake? Human beings make mistakes, right? And
Right.
what, like thinking about the risk, you have to decide, is the risk of not showing up fully and not getting what I want, is that more important than the risk of maybe making a mistake? Right? Unless you are a doctor and you're operating on someone, probably your mistake isn't going to be life ending. Probably, right? But what you want has to be, like we talked about before, right? Your goals and your why has to be bigger than the fear of potentially messing up. And like I said, you don't have to go big. Start small, right? Sit in front of the room instead of at the back. Say one comment instead of nothing, right? Think about how you feel in Toastmasters. Harness that feeling in your body. What does it feel like, right? Maybe you feel energized. Maybe your shoulders are back, right? Maybe you feel really, really straight up, right? This is called, this is like emotional resourcing, guys. If we feel really confident in one area, right, we can kind of push that to another area by borrowing those feelings and those sensation in our bodies, right? The stories we're telling ourselves and share that in the new area. So there's lots of tools, but those are a couple that I would recommend to start with. And remind yourself you have proof you can do this, right? It's just a new environment. Okay, Trish moved from should to I am a person who makes such a big difference. And they've done studies on this too, right? Oh, I have to run 2 miles in the morning. I'm a person who runs before work every day, right? Simple. Although I don't run. I'm older now and I want to keep my knees. But I do walk. Let's see, Jason, I need to review my next steps following a big recent rejection. Doing that with confidence will help. Yes, so good. Fantastic, guys. Great work. Great class today. It It was really great to be with you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Of course, if you have any questions or you're interested in working together, let me know. I'll send you an email later with a replay and details on job search one-on-one. And if you're ever not sure, just book a class, right? I'm never going to push you because you have to be as excited, even if you're a little scared. But I want you to be excited about jumping in and doing the work and feeling confident in your choice to invest in yourself. So, Pat, you're welcome. Tommy, today I actually asked questions. Oh, so see how meta, Tommy. You were showing up in this class when normally you wouldn't. I love it. So good. Many thanks, says Trish. Okay, wonderful. Great work, everybody. I will talk to you soon. I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye.